managing partner of the officer of FAG Consulting. FAG Consulting is a firm of chartered accountant and business consultant which is located in Lagos. Mr. Ade has over 20 years experience which cuts across several industries in Nigeria, ranging from the oil and gas, FMCG, and also the banking industry in Nigeria. So his experience span across financial management, business strategy, audit, tax, and most especially and internal audit practice. And he's also a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Nigeria and an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation in Nigeria. So while our second guest is Mr. Philip Gold. Mr. Philip Gold is an human capital executive at Finflow Travel, which is one of the leading travel management company in Nigeria that provides travel solutions to business and individual. So at Mr. Gold's short time, he has a passion for writing and he's also into content writing and screenwriting. One of the reasons we feel Mr. Gold is the best person for this today's section, he has a good understanding of human behavior, which makes him suit the area of human give us an idea from HR perspective of today's section. We hope to learn a lot from. So as we proceed into this section, if we have any questions, we can always use the chat box. And as we also join the section, we also endeavor to mute our mics to avoid distractions in the course of this section. So I think we'll be starting with Mr. Aderi to give us or tell us what he has for us in today's section. Is Mr. Ayo on the call?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you.
So good evening, and I'm happy to be here. I'm happy for the topic. I'm sure in our career, for those who are just starting, we still have a long way to go. And like he rightly said, part of the process in developing your career, it's also marketing yourself to a prospective employer. And the first step in doing that is the interview stage. So how do you present yourself to your prospective employer? How do you demonstrate that you are the best of the lot? So I think that's what we're looking at today. So you're welcome on board, and I hope we'll learn one or two things, and also I will learn from your experience as well. Thank you. Okay, so Ayodeji, you want me to start?
Okay, yes, you can.
Okay, so the topic says how to ace your job interview. Yes, job interview, it's very essential to any applicants that want to get a job. Now, in fact, the interview is the second stage of the recruitment process. The first stage is your application, which could be formal or informal. After application, which is the key that opens the door to your employer's office, the next is your interaction with your employer. So it's interesting to know that before an employer puts out a notice, a vacancy or advert, or want to recruit, it's something that employer has in mind. The employer has something in mind. the kind of candidates they are looking for. The first is the job the candidate is coming to do, and then what kind of candidates do we need to deliver this job. So the HR people will describe it as job specification and the job description. Job description is the job. Specification is about the person that will fit the job. Now, so how do you prepare for an interview? You've sent in your application. You've been invited for an interview. How do you prepare for an interview? Some people, especially the freshers, those who are joining for the first, who are just coming into the industry, let's say fresh graduates, they have this belief that we have to read our books. Unless you are going for an aptitude test, that is when you need to read your note and all of that. But for an interview, a prospective employer is looking beyond subject matter. They're looking beyond subject matter. The subject matter is part of it, but they're looking beyond the subject matter. So I will divide this interview into three stages. Fresher, those who are just fresh, the kind of interview they go through is different from those who are in their mid-career, those who have some experience. Then the third is a very experienced hire. Maybe they have taken you for a specialist role or a manager role. The way they will conduct the interview for a fresher, a fresh graduate, is different from what they would do for somebody that's like an associate. An associate is someone that's had like maybe 2 years or between 2 to 3 years experience. And it's different for those who have had substantial experience, in the job. So there are three levels of the interview session or type. Now, I assume that most of us here are freshers, or we are call them early stage professional. Therefore, what the employer will be looking out for is not subject matter expertise. They are looking at the candidate himself or herself. Who is this person? Who is this candidate? So you can imagine that you have 10 of you being considered for the same role. So what kind of impression would you want your employer or a prospective employer to have of you the moment you step into the interview room? What kind of impression? So your preparation for the interview to actually start from your mind. What kind of impression do I want to create when I step into my employer's office? That is the very first stage of the interview process as far as I'm concerned. We've conducted quite a number of interviews, and what you are looking at, you are actually reading that candidate before the candidate even sits down. The moment he comes, you say next person and he's coming in, you are actually you are reading that candidate. It will interest you to know that some candidates, immediately the prospective employer sees them, they will be put off by some things. Some other candidates, they will have a very good first impression. It has nothing to do with how beautiful or how handsome, how tall, or all of that you are. It's more of the confidence that you demonstrate when you come in. Confidence is different from arrogance. Confidence is different from arrogance. So the first thing is your own mind. Prepare in your mind, what kind of impression do I want to create for my prospective employer? That's the first thing we do. The second thing we should do is to be vast, meaning that the interview preparation actually should have started long time ago. Long time ago means your school, what you've learned. You don't just go to school and come out, and have a certificate. You must also be able to justify what you have in your certificate. I give an example. There was a candidate who had a first class, actually a distinction, from a UK university, and we're recruiting for financial accountants. And we had other candidates. So the moment we saw his own CV, distinction from one university in the UK, wow. So we put his own CV by the side and say, we want to see who this person is. So sometimes your CV can help or cause trouble for you the way it's been prepared. So while I was saying you should create a very good impression of you, I'm not saying that you should overhype your abilities. Because if you overhype your abilities, you are setting yourself up for a very tough time. I hope we're together.
Yes, sir.
So, because this guy has put a lot of things on his CV with a distinction, of course, you should be proud of your grade. So, when he came for the interview, his own session was tougher because we wanted to find out whether it's really a first class or a distinction candidate. So, if you have such profile, a very good result, try to justify, ensure that you match up with that result when you come for interview. Because sometimes you may just meet some people who are not very nice. They want to test you. Now, so you've created a very good impression of yourself from your CV and from your own profile when you come into the interview session. You should be confident that you know why you are there. So the next is you sit down. Sometimes you try to read the panelists. Some people will want you to ask them if you should sit down. Some other will want you to just take the decision. So you have to be able to sense what they want. So if they don't talk, ask them, can I sit down, please? They will definitely answer you because they don't expect that you will stand. But don't just go there, you come in and you take your seat. Remember I said, what kind of impression are you creating? So you should actually ask them, please, can I take my seat? They say yes, all right, so you sit. So now once you do that, the next is they will ask you tell us about yourself and all of that. So this is not the time to tell them, you are the firstborn of your family, you are this, you are that. That's not what they are looking for. They just want to know. Of course, remember you already submitted a CV, which gives them an idea of who you are. So what they are looking for, I talked about job specification. They want to know if you are the candidate that they are looking for the role. So you should summarize your profile in such a way that it sells you. Imagine that you are a marketer, you want to sell a product. Would you be telling your potential customer, this is my product, I brought it from United States of America. You've not even talked about the product. You have, some information that are not very critical should not be the first thing that you give. You should actually tell them about what is relevant to why you are there. So that is another level that you need to look at in presenting yourself for interview. Then you should listen carefully. Listening skill is very key. Listening skill. Listen to the questions that they asked you. Listen to the questions very carefully. And the way you respond to the question is part of the assessment. You need not know the answer, but sometimes the way you attempt the questions, you will see that some panelists will even help you if they know that you have an idea, they will chip in. They will give you like a clues that enables you to answer the question. So if they do that to you, know that you are already you already made a very good impression to them. So they want to test you. They want to see that you are given a fair chance. Then another thing that we need to do to get the job is to show leadership, depending on the level of job that we are being interviewed for. Remember, I said if it's a fresher job, what they are looking for is not your mastery or expertise. They are looking for your personality. Who is this person? Can this person fit into this job? Is this person trainable? For instance, you finish school and you have not done any skill training, you've not added any value to yourself, immediately you might actually put up some of the panelists, because the question will be, oh, this person that doesn't know how to use Excel, that doesn't know how to use PowerPoint, that is not, it doesn't even know how to do anything at all. This kind of a person may not be able to add value to the organization. It is very essential, especially for freshers, that your CV and when you are talking to the panelists, you are able to demonstrate that in addition to your core course, I'm an accounting graduate, that you have other skills that you can add to the organization. The selling point for you, if you have a broader skill that goes beyond your immediate area of study, it's a selling point for you. Then you must also, I talked about being verse. That means you must be very conversant with happenings around you. Some will take you through different, they will ask you about sports, they will ask you about politics, they will ask you about the economy, they will ask you about international affairs, just to be sure that you are not somebody that left school and forgot everything about study. So so you have to be versed. That's why I said that your interview is not for you to go and be reading what is accounting or what is finance or what is double entry when you want to go for an interview. You have to acquire other knowledge, information that will help you to convince the panelists that you are the right candidate for the job. Then, so having done that, the next is to listen to the various questions they will ask you. And as they ask you questions, if it is a fresher job, they will ask you a little bit about your educational background and all of that, right? As a fresher, they will ask you about that. Then they will be asking you, what is your career plan? What are you looking at? What do you want to become? Why did you apply for this job? You know, we've had some candidates who say, well, why did you apply for this job? I just want to work. I just want to work. I've graduated 3-4 years ago. I have not gotten any job. I'm just looking for any job. The moment you say any job, immediately you've lost that interview. Because any job is no job. What can you do? What are the skills that you have? That is very key. Especially when they're doing this management training scheme where different people, different courses or graduates are being interviewed. You know, so they're not very particular about, because they do not have a particular role in mind. Maybe they just want to run you through a 12-month or 18-month management training. So what they are looking for is your intelligence, your personality, your attitude, your disposition. These are the things they are looking for. Is this person intelligent enough? Can this person be trained? Is he trainable? Does he have other skills? Has he improved him or herself? Is he aware of his environment, which I have mentioned, the political, economic, even sports? Is he aware of those environments? The moment you are able to demonstrate all of that, you are in the right or frame for those panelists to pass you to the next level. Now, if the interview is for associate role, that is somebody with some level of experience, then they will be more specific because they already have in their mind the kind of person they want to recruit for this job. For instance, I need a financial accountant. If they're recruiting for a financial accountant role, they expect that this person must have done something on accounting in his previous experience, because it's not a trainee role, it's more like an experienced hire, but at lower level. So they expect that you have some experience on the job that you are applying for. So the questioning will be tailored towards that job, because they want to be sure that you are the best man for the job. So they will pay attention to your knowledge of the job. They will pay attention to your personality. Who is this person? Can this person feel? Yes, he has the experience, but does he have the right attitude for the job? If time permit me, let me quickly just share a little bit of another experience we had. We wanted to replace our treasury officer who the previous person committed a fraud, stole our money and disappeared. So later I was arrested. So we were going to replace him. So I got CVs and I did the first level of interview on the phone. So now talking to this particular guy, he sounded so very interesting on the phone. I couldn't wait to meet him. So in my mind I said, oh, I would like to recruit this guy. So he now came for the interview, well dressed. You needed to see his suit. Very sharp suit. He had all kind of decoration on his suit. His hair is very afro kind of hairstyle. Very looking lovely, more like a brand ambassador than an accountant. Anyway, he came for the job, and we asked him questions, and he was answering. Then we got to the point of asking, how much do you want us to pay you for this role? And his response was, you pay me this amount. So our next question was, okay, what if we can't pay this amount? Do you mean you will not take this job? So we mentioned a particular amount. What if we can't pay you what you want? You mean you will not take this job, even though we consider you to be a good candidate? His response was what knocked him out of that interview. The guy said, so he adjusted his seat and his suit. He said, take a look at me. Do you want your treasury accountant to look tattered? Look at my suit. And I tell you, myself and the HR people, we looked at ourselves and said, yeah, we're in trouble. And we want to recruit a treasury accountant that will be keeping money. And this guy is telling us that we should look at his suit. That was the end of the interview for the guy. Well, maybe some other people may not take it serious, but for us, we're coming from the fact that the last person stole money and disappeared. Now we're looking for a candidate that is much more conservative. But here we have somebody that pays so much attention to his look and his dressing. So that is a telltale sign that we may have it may not be fit for this particular role. It might be fit for another role. It's not a bad candidate, but for this particular job that we want, it may not be the right candidate for that. If you remember your fraud triangle, you will understand what I'm trying to talk about. So as a candidate, the employer has a profile in mind before they invite you for an interview. So once you come in, is that profile, they're trying to see whether you fit into that profile. So you have to also present yourself in a way that will make them to believe or to accept that this is the candidate we're looking for. We got another candidate to replace that guy, and after our interview with that candidate, I told my HR that this is my candidate that have gotten the person I'm looking for. And The HR said, but we still have two other candidates. I said, no problem, you can invite them. That unless these other two are coming from heaven, you know, eventually it was that other candidate everybody agreed was the best. And I tell you, this candidate performed so very well in the company that our MD actually gave me an award for being able to pick a good candidate. All the people we recruited happened to be very good candidates for the company. So that is what employers look out for when they are conducting interview. They look at your personality and then they look at your experience. Experience, yes, but personality is even superior because you can be trained. If you don't have enough experience but you have the right attitude and the personality they're looking for, they can waive some marks for you and say, okay, this person is trainable, so we'll train. But if you have the experience but you don't have the personality that they're looking for, then it becomes a bit difficult for you to get that job. I think I should stop here for my other colleague to come in as well.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. We'll get back to you. So I think Mr. Philip is on the call. So we're giving us his own perspective from an HR point of view. What is HR when they're interviewing an accounting or a finance person? So I don't know if Mr. Philip is on the call.
Yeah, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Yes, am I audible enough? Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Kudos to Mr. Ayuade because listening to him, he has basically done most of the talking because experience will always tell you how vast people can be in the process of recruitment, and his talk basically showed that he actually has a full grasp of what you're talking about here when it comes to interviews and recruitment and what have you. And thank you very much, sir. You've made this process a very easy one, so I will try as much as possible not to repeat most of the things that he had already emphasized on while talking. So basically for interviews, dream jobs, and whatever it is that motivates us in the corporate world, interview, like we said, does not start. That's not the first process. Basically, for you to get a chance to be interviewed, you must have applied. Application. That is where the first instance comes in. And one thing I can tell you is, for interviews, for you to be able to do so well in interviews, your confidence must be unshakable. Oftentimes, people think it's the knowledge base. How intelligent are you? How smart are you? But I've seen intelligent candidates come for interviews and they performed poorly, all because they lack the confidence to communicate the values and knowledge that they have. Yes, let's start from the very first process, your application for the job. Like he mentioned earlier, for every role that has been placed out there for a vacancy, the company, the hiring team have a job description and a job specification. That is, they know what they want, the role that is being advertised. They know what the role entails. They know what the role is, what's required of that role, and they know the candidates that they see fits ideally into that role. Now, your application matters a lot because oftentimes you see for a role you can have 1,000 CVs, 2,000 CVs, a whole lot of CVs. Now, how do you write your CV? How do you apply for roles? We've seen several people sending CVs that are poorly written, grammatical errors, poor arrangements, and all sorts. That is the primary stage as an applicant. When you're applying for a role, be it your dream role, be it a startup role that you are hoping to build a career in, your application has to be very good. You have to be careful of how, because the CV speaks for you. It is the first impression the hiring team have of you. So when you write a CV and it's not properly arranged, grammatical errors are a whole lot, it says a lot about your candidacy to begin with. And also, it is very easy for young applicants, those are just starting up their career, to want to exaggerate their qualities in the CV, on their CVs. It's actually is a very, very tempting thing to do, but we ought to be very careful of that, because, like you said earlier, once your CV has stated a whole lot of things about you, you raise the expectations of the hiring team, in as much as they take their time to sit with you and verify and validate all these things you say in your CV. So it's going to be you're going to be setting yourself up for failure when you've written a whole lot of things you don't even know about on your CV. Yes, it will get you through the front door, you get invited for the interview. When you come for the interview, they start asking questions based on those things, and you begin to falter. That is you setting yourself practically up for failure, all in the name of you want to have a CV, or you just, oftentimes some people even pay people to just write CVs, just write anything you want about me, this is it, and you just put it out there. It's a very, very dangerous thing to do as an applicant. So your CV has to be well articulated, well arranged, not exaggerated, not falsified. Make sure that your CV is something that you can present and defend anyway. You can write 1,001 things, just make sure that 1,001 things you are written and stated on your CV, you can defend them anyway. It's very, very important. Then another thing candidates need to do, it's very important, is that you need to do a research about the company you're interviewing with. Oftentimes we've had candidates come in for interviews, and after a few conversations, questions, they're like, okay, what do you know about this company? And they're blank. I don't think it is fair or it is wise that you're going to have an interview with a company that you do not know anything about that company. For example, accounting. You're going for a role of an accountant, and yes, you've read audio thing you need to know about accountancy, you've read audio questions, all those secondary school book knowledge, you've memorized everything. But the company itself that you're going to interview with, you don't know anything about them. It sets you up for being, they look at you as an unprepared candidate. Because interviews, especially when you're looking at young applicants that are just starting out their careers, it's not always focused on your book knowledge. It's not always focused on your book knowledge. Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we're with you.
Okay, so interview can take various dimensions. You might come in as an accountant, and a young accountant starting up entry level and the panel you meet will just, from one talk to another, it moves to various questions that are not even related to accountancy to begin with. It doesn't have anything to do with accounting. And how knowledgeable can you hold the conversation? It's very, very important. So you need to broaden your horizon. You need to do your research about the company you are going for. You need to understand the role you are going for. What is the peculiarity about that industry, about that company? You need to understand it. So you know how best to relate to the hiring team, to the panel. Because communication is very important, and your level of confidence. The personality is very in an interview. A candidate with the right personality and ability to communicate well can have an edge over somebody that is knowledgeable and cannot communicate. So it's very, very important. We've had high flying. Recently, we had a candidate that we're trying to bring on board during the interview stage. This candidate is actually knowledgeable, but the communication was the problem. At a point, the candidate kept looking down. It was a virtual interview. Only kept looking downwards while talking. And after we dismissed the candidate, a lot of talks went on the panel that, it seems this person is reading from a book or something. That might be the case, and that might not be the case. The person might just be suffering from anxiety to communicate. That person is looking downwards, and gave the team the hiring team the impression that this is probably reading from a book. So your confidence is actually very key during interviews. It's very, very key. You have to be able to express yourself, communicate in a very resounding manner. Confidence has to be there. These are one of the key things. Then you also need to learn how to stand out during interviews. You're interviewing for a role of accountant, and probably the hiring team have had probably maybe 50, 25, 30 candidates pass through their table. What makes you stand out? Your ability to narrate your skill is very important. If candidates come in, there probably be something about you that just sticks out, and they get interested. I've been in an interview panel where the hiring team, the technical people are actually going to grade you on your technicality. They just saw the candidate, and within 10 minutes, they've already cancelled that candidate out. Your personality, your attitude. But we're interviewing a candidate recently, and we asked, okay, why are you here? Why should we hire you? They're like, I just saw the candidate, so I should apply. That's wrong attitude, because one of the things companies look out for is your cultural fitness. Can you be the cultural fit to the company, to the company's values, to the company's morals? Those are things that they look out for. So when you come with a good attitude, it helps leave a lasting impression, because interview is basically about how good is your first impression. You will not get the second chance when it comes to interview in most cases. How good is your first impression? Yes, you have done research about the role, you've done research about the company, but how good is your first impression? Mr. Ayade has done a lot of analysis and explained to everybody here, step by step, stages by stages, and those were actually very comprehensive. And I'm trying not as much as possible not to repeat those processes, so that we can have a broader spectrum of the hiring process. So these things are actually very key. Then also, oftentimes we have stages where the panel gives you an opportunity to ask them questions. Do you have any questions for us? A lot of candidates miss the opportunity, because sometimes connecting to the hiring team can help you get the job. We've had interviews where, from conversing and talking, asking questions, or the person goes, "No, you are from AKT. Oh, okay, you went to this school. Oh, you were this, you were that." And emotional, we are humans. Definitely, the human factor will always come to play during interview stage, because there are so many qualified candidates out there, so many with the knowledge of that role. So, what gives you an edge over others? The ability to connect. As you are interviewing for that, you are also interviewing with the people. So, how well can you connect with the people? It's actually very key. So, when you are given an opportunity to ask questions, throw questions to the hiring team about their experience, about the challenges they face on their jobs. If you are given the opportunity to, let them talk, interact with them, stand out. And that's one of the things that help you when you have done your proper research about the company. You've gone through the company's history. You can identify, okay, these are one of the key areas the company is doing so well. One of the key areas the company is defaulting or is lacking behind. But two questions like that. Oh, what have you guys been doing that made you guys stand out? Force them to communicate with you. Dry questions. And they start talking about themselves. You can look for common grounds, because you really need to stand out as a candidate, especially for young applicants that are entering into the system as an entry-level employee. If you are coming for a management role, your technicality is going to be very, very key in your hiring. But as a young graduate that is entering into a company, probably as a graduate trainee or as an entry-level staff or employee, questions would not arise so much about your technical ability, your confidence, how cultural fit are you into the company's values and goals, your ability to obey the hierarchy or instructions. We've had interviews where candidates argue with the panelists. I tell you, okay, this what you are saying is actually not so right, and you are trying to assert, oh, you are right. You are arguing with people that want to employ you. That's the wrong signal to begin with. We're trying to hire recently, some few months ago, like a month ago thereabouts, for a role in the IT department. And this person actually schooled abroad, I think somewhere in Spain, and the technical ability was outstanding. But the only problem the candidate had had was anytime he was corrected, he always argued. He never listens. He had this syndrome of always wanting to be right. So I told him, okay, this, he said, no. He always wants to assert himself. Oh, this is what I mean. Sometimes when you are in an interview, when you are facing an interview panel, hiring team, you need to be submissive because that is their terrain. That is their playing field. You are just there to come and partake in it. So whatever they say goes. So even if sometimes they are saying certain things and you don't subscribe to it, you do not ultimately agree to it, that is not a platform for you to argue. It is not a debate. You are not in the law court. And once you are giving correction, always adhere to those corrections. It's okay. You're not supposed to say, take feedbacks. Feedbacks are actually very good. Do not be argue. Do not always want to win every case. It's an interview panel. So those are little things that a lot of applicants, candidates, they make when they are coming into an interview session. Personality is actually very, very key. You have a very short window to make an impression on the panelist. And if you lose that opportunity, you probably will not get it back. Another thing I want to advise young applicants is sometimes because if you do not have enough technical ability to apply for certain roles, you are applying for a role that requires 3 to 5 years experience, and you are a fresher in the sense that you are just starting your career. It is not wise to apply for those roles. It is not wise. Those are one of the things that prompt some people to not start creating doctoring experience that they do not have, and you come to the interview and you set yourself up for failure. Also, when you are given an opportunity to start up in a company from entry level or from the graduate training, do not be too eager to leave, no matter the circumstances the company is facing. One of the things is you should be more eager to learn. When you are starting off as an entry level or graduate training, you're trying to build up a career. Wherever you get to, be more concerned about increasing your knowledge about that profession. That should be your priority. You should not be talking about what are they paying me. We had a candidate one time, and this person had less than a year experience for the role she was applying for, and the salary she was commanding during interview session was surprising. Even those with 2 years experience do not come out such salary, and you are demanding for that. You are saying this is what we should pay you. You should be more concerned about building a career, getting there, get as much knowledge as you can. Do not be so concerned about salary when you are starting up your career. Go to companies whereby you have the opportunity to grow. So when you've acquired enough knowledge, then it will help you. In the corporate world, knowledge is your currency to get a better job. Nobody's going to be paying you six figures if you do not have the knowledge to handle the role that you want to interview for. Nobody. So knowledge is the currency that people spend in the corporate world. If you know about a role and you have the right personality, you can negotiate for any amount. So it's very common. You see young people, they don't start. Yes, the company is terrible, the economy is bad, and you're just starting up your career, and you have opportunities to get interviewed for a role as an entry level career training, and you are asking for 250, 200. You do not have the experience yet to back that up. Sometimes demands like that put off the hiring team, because they see you as somebody that is greedy for money. So sometimes it's always easy to always inflate, always call high price. Oftentimes you hear a lot of people say, call an high price during negotiation, salary negotiation, and they're asking, okay, what are you expecting? What are you expecting on the company salary rise? So you say, inflate it, raise it so high, and if they ask, okay, is it negotiable? You're like, oh no. So that they give you, no, sometimes be reasonable when you are making demands, because impression matters. What you say, how you say it, sticks to the hiring team's mind. And those are one of the things that are going to make you stand out from other candidates. Be relaxed during interviews. Be calm. Speak as clear as possible. If you do not understand a question, ask again for clarity so that you don't start giving the wrong answers. So these are keys. And ultimately, when it comes to rejections are just, they're part of interview processes. Oftentimes you see candidates who they sent me a rejection email, they didn't reach out to me back, they are dejected. No. The more interviews you go, the more experience you acquire. It builds you up. So do not see rejection during interview processes as rejection in life. No, it's part of the circle. Keep up. Keep going. Keep applying for better jobs. And do not always waste time, especially for fresh graduates. It's very important that do not waste your time. If jobs are not coming your way, take up courses online. Improve your skill. Because, like I said, your skill, your knowledge is the currency in the corporate world. If you don't have the technical know-how, if you don't have the skill, nobody will pay you. Nobody will take you as a graduate trainee to begin with. Like the first speaker said, you are coming as an accountant, you don't even know how to use Excel, PowerPoint, all those things. These are things that you could actually learn while in school, or maybe you left school. Take an online course on it. YouTube is there. Improve, no matter how little. If you cannot afford to do professional courses, there are a lot of free courses out there that will help you improve your skill. Because if I have two candidates for the role of an accountant, one is actually knowledgeable in Excel, the other is not, and they both have good personality, they look committed to the role, obviously I'll pick the one that gives me less stress to train. It's just as simple as that. So those are basic things that will help you. Your confidence level needs to be high. It needs to be very high. Sometimes the panel are not so patient. So you need to be able to reach out to them. They are humans. So they might enter into the panel, into the interview room with a mindset that is not even right for that particular interview. So it is not left for you to be able to break through to them and reach out to them. That is your job, to convince them that, oh, I can actually do this role. You might see something, but you need to be careful. If you have time, rehearse with people, learn to talk, learn to communicate over time. You have your friends, just talk about stuff like that. It helps you build your confidence over time. So that when you get there, you know how best to talk, you know what best to say. And please, always prepare before coming for interviews. There are so many experiences. We had one, it was a virtual interview, and someone was basically whispering what to say to her behind her laptop. And we could basically hear that. She kept on looking up, trying to get what person is saying so that she could. If you know all this, why don't you just prepare beforehand and give the best you can give there and then. Whatever the results might be, it's fine. So please avoid fraudulent doctoring of your CVs, rules of work, but don't do that. Come as simple as you can and try and make a good impression on the hiring team. So I think I will stop there for now. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate your time. Thank you. So without wasting much of our time, we'll take some questions. Right, we'll take some questions. So I have a question for Mr. Ayade.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So this is from the technical point of view. So you have the consulting firm. So I would like to know what are the qualities you're looking for a mid-level professional looking to apply to your company. So what are the qualities outside the personality traits you've talked about? What are the qualities you look out for a professional looking to work in your company?
All right, thank you very much. Well, like you rightly said, once you pass the entry level, now it's a mid-level. So you expect that the person at some level of technical competence, that fits into the role that you want to recruit for. So the first is technical competence to handle that particular specific role that you are recruiting for. The second is industry knowledge. And the third would be its personality, because that is key in relating with clients and even supervising and working with its subordinates. So those three are very, very key. Then you will also be looking at, I don't want to use the word loyalty, not really loyalty, as its intent in, does it believe in the vision of the company you want to work with? That is very key, because at mid-level, you are probably also representing that company or that firm outside there. So if you don't believe in what the firm is trying to do, it becomes difficult for you to be a good ambassador out there. So you'll be looking at his corporate fit. Does he share in the vision and mission of the firm? And is he able to project that to clients? Like in my place here, my firm here, because of the type of service we give to our clients, we expect that staff will go out of their way to satisfy our client. And that is why we have a very good retention rate, because if the employer engage us for one aspect of their business, we actually do more than what they pay us for. We just try to help them do more. So in doing that, they tend to see more value, from us. And that, help us to retain the client. So we will expect that kind of mid-level person to demonstrate his ability to do that. Not just that, this is what I'm engaged to do, and so that's what I'm doing. So he has to share in the company's vision as well. So I don't know if I've answered your question.
Thank you very much, sir. I don't know if anyone wants to ask any other question.
Hello, good evening. Yeah, I have a question. Yeah, so I want to ask, right, I think there's one part that I'm always interested in terms of work relationship that it's seldom talked about, right? And that's at what point do we have to let an employee go? Like at what? So as a middle-level manager, at what point, or as a senior manager, at what point, or what do you look at to say this employee doesn't fit in here, and how best do you let an employee go, or what do employee do before you let them go? Thank you.
Okay, is that question for me or for Philip?
I would just like to get your opinion, Mr. Philip's opinion on the question, if possible. Thank you.
Okay, Philip, do you want to go first?
Okay, you can do us the honors of going first, sir.
All right, no problem. Well, so I assume the employee has been employed and is worked with, let's say, with me now for a while. You see, every employee creates an impression in the mind of the employer, even after employment. So you work with them every day. So there are things that you see that the employee may not even be aware that they're communicating something, either value or they're destroying value. So when you come in, you have like 100%. That is why you even came in the first place. So it's either you maintain that, or you add on, or you reduce it. So, for instance, and those 4 criteria that I mentioned earlier to Ayodeji's questions. So if an employee is not able to sustain those, then it becomes a bit difficult for the employer to wanting to keep that kind of an employee. It might be technically sound, but what if he has a very wrong attitude to clients, or even to his people, subordinate or superior? Then you just be looking at the right time to let that person. It has happened before. We had someone who he was very good, but very bad attitude. He would take time off, from, in fact, within his first 3 months, he's taking time off like 4 times. And the last one, even after he had been warned, he still went ahead. He took that without permission, and then he came back to now apologize. So, it's a question of if every staff is doing this, it means we're not going to have discipline here. So we are good, but there are other good people out there. So we are not indispensable. That's what it means. So those are the things that you look out for. Not that you just sack an employee, but they must have been doing something over time that gets to a point where the employer can no longer take it. Or if it's going to cause some bad blood, in the firm, or it's going to show a bad example to other staff, so you may have to let the person go. But Philip, you may want to add to that.
Oh, okay, sir. Thank you very much. One thing I would say is that for every role, there is a KPI. That's a key performance indicator, and that shows what qualities, what parameters will each role be evaluated, be appraised for. So sometimes a manager, be whatever role or level in the management you are in on the system, your technical ability will be appraised, will be tested to see if the JD you were brought in for, you are living up to expectations, you are delivering on those things. And if your technical ability does not fit into the expectation of the company, that might be a problem. That might be a reason to let an employee go. Also, if each company, each industry, each company, they have what they call policies, your company policies. Some companies do not tolerate lateness. Some companies do not tolerate several absences. Every company has their own policy. So when you are signing a contract with a company, you will probably see a list of things to do or not to do, or the company policy will state those things out. So sometimes it might not actually be the technical ability of the employee. It might probably be the attitude. How well do you conform to the company's policy? Are you culturally fit to the orientation of the company? Are you abiding by the company's rules and regulations? Your attitude towards work, how is it? Are you a negative influence to others? Are you a bad example to others? Because sometimes you cannot, because of the person is technically good, you now overlook the person's attitude towards work, the person's exemplary status, the way the person interacts with others. Because some employees, they are good, but they have terrible working relationship with others. Today they're always fighting this, today they're always fighting that person, they are gossiping. So a lot of factors come into place, and you have to evaluate that before thinking of, okay, this is time to let the person go. Because no matter how good an employee is, if your behavior, your personality does not conform to the demands of the company you are working for, then there will be a problem. And at that point, the management has to take a decision of letting you go. So it might not necessarily be just the technical aspect, it might be the behavioral aspect, the attitude aspect, and even theft. It might be stealing from the company. So a lot of factors can come into play that would lead to companies, okay, we've had enough. We've been given warnings. Sometimes when you come, you have query, verbal query, you have written query, you have all sorts. Some might even lead to you facing a panel, depending on how the company policy states issues should be handled. Some companies, they start from verbal warning to written query, then if not, we proceed. If you are a continuous offender, you go to panel, then the panel might decide to let you go. Each company have their own peculiarity, where they handle issues and what they expect from employees. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Please, I have quick questions. 2 quick questions. The first one is, when it comes to negotiation, that is where most of the applicants we miss it because we know the situation of the country. We are hungry to forgetting the fact that we are supposed to add value, or the intention behind our application initially. So when it comes to negotiation, and for a middle level professionals, someone that has at least let me just say 3 or more years of experience, and you have the right qualification, how do you now bargain yourself? How do you please yourself so that you not please yourself below and too high or above the company's budget? That's question one. Then second question is a situation whereby you are adding value to the companies, and the line manager knows that you are adding value to the companies, yet they are not doing anything for you, like increasing your pay, adding more benefit to what you are earning, or adding more benefit to you, something like that, so that it will motivate you to do more. How can you go about that? And sorry, the last question is, if you are now go for an interview, and then when you receive the message, it should just be like from XYZ PLC, you are invited to do so. How do you do follow up after the interview stage? So that how do you communicate with the HR manager, considering the fact that you don't have their contact initially or not? Yeah, that's what I want to ask. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Toyosi. So let me start with the first question. You were talking about how to know the value to place to negotiate with your prospective employer.
Exactly.
Well, like we said, every job advertised has a value to the employer. So in their mind, they have the value they want to pay for that job. Now, it depends on the company policy, and I'm sure Philip will talk more about it from HR perspective. So it depends on the company policy. Some companies, regardless of what you talk about, they will pay you what they pay for that role. They already have it in their policy, so it's not a problem for them. So whatever amount you mentioned, they will still pay you what that role commands in their own pay structure. However, there are some other companies who want to bargain to see if they could get a cheaper candidate. So in that case, my first advice to you would be to do a research, like Philip advised earlier. Before you go for the interview, try to know about that company. Try to find out as much as possible, if it is possible for you to do, to know, okay, how much do they pay for this kind of role? Look at other departments and that are on the same level as you, that are coming into accounting. So what do they pay for this level of employee in that company? If you are able to get that information, good for you. Now, if you are not able, you have to look at what will make you happy to work in that company. What will make you happy to work for them? So I think that is the area you should be looking at. If I'm earning, let's say, 150 where I work now, and I want to go for another job, so I will be looking at, so what is it that will earn from this new company that will make me want to leave where I am now? Because we are comparing factors. Now I'm here, I've known this place, maybe I'm comfortable or I'm not comfortable. So this new company, bearing in mind all factors unknown and all of that, so what is the cost, extra cost, or call it a risk premium value that I should ask for on top of what I currently earn? So that is the way I think you can look at it. So put a premium on top of what you currently earn and see if that will fly with the employer. That is, if it's an employer that does not have a standard or policy on what they want to pay. Then the second question has to do with the line manager not supporting you enough, either in terms of benefit or compensation to make you happy. Well, my advice is golden fish has no hiding place. If you are very good in a company, you will be noticed. Beyond your line manager, you will definitely be noticed. And once you are noticed, the decision on compensation or benefit is beyond your line manager. You will see that sometimes a line manager may, for one reason or the other, will not give a good appraiser of the staff under them. But the superior might say, this person, no. I've seen that happen several times. No, this person, why did you give him this kind of appraiser? Because it's this, is that. Why? Because you have demonstrated more competence or good attitude that is known beyond your line manager's purview. Therefore, other people are able to speak for you. Now, where that doesn't happen, don't worry. Just keep doing what you are doing. Do your best. You will be compensated one way or the other. So don't let your line manager, be the problem for you where you work. You do your best. Whether your line manager value it or not, it still doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, you are actually developing yourself for greater opportunities. So I always advise people that regardless of what you currently earn, don't let that determine your output. Keep doing your best, and at the end of the day, you will be better off for it. The third question, I think Philip will be in a better position to address that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ayade. In response to your first question, you said negotiation during interviews. Yes, one of the things I advised earlier is you need to do your thorough research about the industry, because industry varies. There are so many industries out there. So if you get an interview invite from a company, first of all, you need to do your research about that industry. What is the standard? How much do they pay for this particular role? Then you also do your research about the company itself. If you can get any information how do they pay there? Because there's industry standards for payments. Now, when it comes to negotiation with the HR, some companies have this salary structure. For each level, there's the amount they are willing to pay. They won't go above, they won't go below. There's a structure. So even when you say, I'm expecting this, I'm expecting that, all they will just do is, when you have confirmed that you are the right candidate or the right fit for the role, they put a call through to you, reach out to you, join me, John, sorry, okay, this is what we are willing to offer for this role. You take it or leave it offer. Why some HR personnel, which one of the things we've been advocating for over time is, some HR personnel, they have this tendency to always want to under-negotiate with candidates, potential employees. They are trying to reduce the cost for the company. So they try to offer you the least possible, especially when you do not know your value. I've had instances where I've had to put some candidate, you've come to me for advice, and this is what you should do, this is what you should say. And sometimes you need to, when you have that knowledge, it's good for you. Only when you have the knowledge. Because when you are coming in as a young graduate without any experience, you are open to any price being pushed at you. Because you don't have, I told you, your experience and your technical ability is the currency that is being spent in the corporate world. Once you don't have experience, you don't have technical ability, what are you negotiating with? Whatever they throw at you, is either you take it or you leave it. So when you have the technical knowledge, first of all, seek knowledge about the pay structure of that industry, that company. But during negotiation, always, if they insist, sometimes I've had candidates when they say that, how much are you willing to pay me? Pay me by your company structure. Some candidates say that. And some people say they insist that they want to know your expectation. It's better to demand for more. Not more in the sense that if you know, the companies, you've done your research, that is only to do your research. So they pay 150 for this role, for this level. You can ask for 200,000 naira in that instance. You need to know, ask you next, is it negotiable? Always be open to negotiations. Do not be starting, not say no, but it's negotiable. Sometimes if they see that you're best fit, they reach out to you later on to negotiate a fixed amount salary. But if not, you see that how much are you willing to pay? Just be sure that is very important for you during negotiation. You need to have an idea so that you don't call and exaggerate your value monetary wise and discourage or irritate the panel, and you don't undervalue so that they don't pay you peanuts for the role you are coming in for. The second question, we're talking about salary improvement. Yes, sometimes it happens where the line managers did not give correct appraisal for the work you are putting into your job. It happens sometimes. There are some people, like you said, humans are very difficult to deal with. That's why the work of an HR is very simple, because everybody has different personality. And people just hate you for your personality, for probably the way you do your work, or maybe you don't give them that respect for various reasons, and they determine to turn your appraisal because they are your line manager. They appraise you down. It happens. Like Mr. Ayade has said, if you are a very, very good hand, you cannot hide. If you are a star, you cannot hide. Other people will see. I've had instances where the CEO, the MD, actually supersedes a line manager's appraisal to increase the salary of the employee, because everybody can see that you are good. Your work shows, it tells that you are good. So even sometimes when things like that happen, other people can see. And in instances where they are not opportunity to see what you do, I tell people, when you are joining a company, have two things in mind. Yes, we are all working for money. That's the truth. Have a salary growth in mind. Oh, I intend to improve the salary rise. Also have a knowledge growth in mind. So when salary does not come in, you are okay, I'm developing knowledge rise, so that in my next place of employment, I have enough knowledge to negotiate. There was a point in my life where I had to take a job that was paying me so little, not so much. But because I knew that this is an environment for me to acquire the knowledge I need to have to be in a better position to negotiate for a better salary, I took the job. And I focused on learning everything that I learned on that job. So that by the time I decide to leave, when I've learned everything I think I need to learn, my next point of job, I have the knowledge currency to negotiate for a better salary. So you always have to have these two things in mind. Because if you are just concerned about the money, when the money does not come, you might become a disgruntled employee. You might become a pain into the company's processes and all. You don't need that. So you have to have those two things, your knowledge growth and your salary growth. So that when one is not coming, the other one at least is compensating. It's very important. Then the last question, you're talking about during interviews, when you are reached out to by the HR team about an interview or what have you. Usually the HR team always have an email signature in most cases. And I think those email signatures always contain their details, their names, or the name of the company, the phone number that you can reach out to, so you can have better clarification. Okay, so I think those mediums, even when they call you via phone to have a phone interview with you, you can always reach out to them via that same phone number. Another thing I also encourage is when you get invites, do research. Like I said, it's very important because there's some fake outlets out there that will call you for fake interviews. A friend of mine was complaining to me just yesterday, how he got an invite to come for an HR personnel to look HR role, and he went there prepared. Even he had to take a few hours of my time to discuss some things. Then he got there and they're asking him to come and be selling products for them. I know. Because the first thing I asked him that, have you done your due diligence research about this company? He said, yeah, he has done it. I said, and he got was like, he was not so sure, saw some things. I said, that's the thing, you don't waste your time. Because if you have done due diligence, you realize that the company is not an HR or does not have an HR structure. They sell products. They are using those emails to lure you so that they can get your attention. There are a lot of things. There's some people who use these emails, interview emails, to kidnap people, to extort people. I've heard a lot of stories about people being kidnapped, people being taken to crazy places, and they extort them. They take everything on them and all sorts of things. So that you need due diligence is always important. There are different platforms. Go research about these people. Anytime you see a fishy interview invite that you cannot find any credibility online, just don't go. don't waste your time, don't waste your effort, don't waste your money, or don't give yourself false hope just go and get disappointed. So that research is very, very important, and I hope I've been able to at least answer your question to a large regard.
Very well, sir. Thank you, Mr. Philip and Mr. Ayo. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hello, can you hear me? I think I have a follow-up question to Toyosi question, and then I have a separate question entirely, right? So I think when Mr. Ayuade was attending to Toyosi question, he mentioned that as much as possible, we shouldn't let the pay or the perks on the job to define the output and what have you, right? So I would like to ask a follow-up question around the fact that at what point do one decide to move on? Yeah, we are all humans, and at one point or the other, probably to stop. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Though you broke off at some point.
Okay, so I was going to ask that at what point do one, because of whatever probably pay-related issues, leave a job? That's one part. And then another question entirely is that, given the circumstance of things now, like things now that people are admitting to remote interview or physical remote interview or remote job or basically all of those things, right? I would like to ask that, how do one convincingly ask an interviewer to let's have a remote interview? Probably I stay in Ibadan, for example, and I'm being invited to come for an interview in Lagos, VI to be specific. Can I request that the interview be made remote, like virtually? And if I am to do so, how best can I convince the interviewer? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At what point do one leave his job before pay? Well, it's there's no mathematical formula for that. What I said earlier was is particularly for the entry-level jobs, is that you should lay emphasis more on acquiring as much knowledge and skill and experience as possible in your first few jobs, so that, like Philip said, it becomes a strong currency for you to negotiate a better paying opportunities in the future. Now, to your own specific questions. So what I would advise is, you have to look at, one, do I have what it takes to command better pay outside? I've worked with this company for 2 years, for 3 years. I don't see any positive career growth or better pay. I don't even see the company also growing to the level that can also now benefit the staff. You need to ask yourself that question. So if that is the situation, that's the case, so what you probably need to do is to take the remaining time that you have there to acquire the best experience you can while you are on the lookout for a better pay. So it's not a question of when, at what time. I think it's more of you knowing this is the right time for me to move. For instance, if you have family or other responsibilities and what you currently earn is not enough to even meet substantial part of that responsibility, and every time you are not happy, it means you won't even be able to do well in your current role. So I think at that point, you'll have to start looking out, to other places. Or where the job, imagine some employers, you are meant to do certain type of jobs and they're making making the job become very personal, meaning you're now doing more than what your normal JD is. You're doing personal runs for the boss, which would not really help or enhance your own career progression. So you begin to look at, oh, is this what I really want? Is this what I want? So those are the things you can take into consideration in determining the best time to leave. So there's no best time as in best time. I think it depends on you and those factors that will influence your decision. But the emphasis is, do not let monetary compensation influence or determine, your early career or decision making. Let it be more of competence and experience that you want to acquire. Then the second one, how to convince an interviewer to request for a remote. This really is not your call. I think it has to do with what the interviewer or the employer wants. If they can grant you such a concession, yes, you can request, you can ask that, oh, please, I live somewhere far. Can we do this remotely? If it's something they could do, they will definitely say, okay, it's all right. But if not, they will tell you, no, it's not possible. We just recruited for a client, and the lady is in Enugu, and the client is in Lagos, and she can't leave Enugu to come to Lagos for an interview during the week. So we discussed, and the employer granted her the request for the virtual interview. So it's something you should ask. So if it's okay with the employer, they will tell you it's okay. If it's not, there's really nothing you can do about that. I hope I've answered your question.
Very well, sir. Thanks a lot for the insight. Well, thanks.
Okay, thanks very much. I don't know if you have any other questions, but we use that. Okay, so if you don't have any, I want to thank everyone for taking out time out of their busy schedule to come attend this monthly section. So it's nice hearing from you guys, and we sincerely appreciate our guests also for taking time out to come speak to us and also impact us in this section. So thank you guys, and see you again next month in our next section. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a
Thank you
wonderful
very
weekend.
much. Thank you.